All right. Hello, it's me, Bill, and we're going to talk about how to find a way to win. What do you do when things don't go right? And it's funny, they don't often go perfectly right. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. So, like for instance, the sun, the wind, the cold, the court conditions, the this, the that. I mean, there's so many different things. A certain shot that you rely on just isn't working today. Or maybe it will, but you have to figure out how you're going to get it to work. Those types of things. And this is why you need coaching, because sometimes it's that other person who is, really taking a look at your game, who can help you to gain confidence to work through things that happen on the match. So I'm going to start with a story. One time I went to go play a tournament and it was 31 degrees at the beginning. It was 8 o'clock match, 31 degrees in January. And so I figured, all right, I better get there early. So I arrived at the site at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I went and doing some laps, trying to get warm, trying to, get my body moving, try to hit a few balls before getting on that 8 o'clock match. So ahead of the match, somebody told me, it was asking me, hey, look, you're playing the number one seed, Edwin, right? And I'm like, yeah, so. And it was pretty clear nobody expected me to win the match at all, right? But anyway, so I'm doing all this warming up, I'm running, and all this stuff, and I barely felt like I even broke a sweat. But here comes Edwin, and he's coming in cold. So, so it's 31 degrees. The balls are barely bouncing, and he's cold, and I'm somewhat warm, I suppose. But when it's that cold, the balls don't bounce really well. The strings don't recoil. The racket doesn't flex the same way. Everything's more dead. So you have to play a different way. It was very interesting. So I'm trying to play my normal game, and everything's just sitting up nicely for him. So I was like, okay, wait a second. I'm going to try something different. So I hit a really soft shot about 6 inches over the net down the line that the first bounce was before the service line. And then because the ball's not bouncing, now he has to come up diagonally forward on a dead ball to try to hit a passing shot, and the ball's going nowhere. And so he's just lifting the ball right up, and then I'm like making a volley winner to the other side. So I think I ended up winning like 6-2, 6-1. Had a little bit of a rocky start at the beginning, but just annihilated the guy, and he was so frustrated. It was so much fun. Anyway, so I came back to the tournament the next day, and then people wanted to know why I was there. Are you here to watch? What, do you live nearby? What? No, I'm here to play. Wait, you beat Edwin? Yes, or I wouldn't be here. I mean, wow, talk about being sold short in that situation. So, so when the conditions can have a really big bearing on the match. Now I'm going to tell you one that I did not like, and so I was in a place called Foster City, which is in the Bay Area here, and it's very windy. It's almost always windy there. And some of the courts they have lined up so that the ball, you have this very strong crosswind going across the court, so the ball goes like that. And for the life of me, I've never really figured out how to play well like that because you're hitting a ball down the line and it gets blown 2 feet wide, and then it's really unnerving to hit the ball 2 feet out for it to be blown in. I've never got a handle on that, but I don't think I've ever won a match in a serious side wind, at like 30 miles an hour, where the ball's curving like so. But the people who beat me know how to deal with that. But in coaching it, when I'm coaching my players in that kind of conditions, somehow I'm able to convey good information to them and help them do this. But for the life of me, it doesn't work for me. But you have to shift. You have to shift your focus. You have to aim your targets in a different place, because you have to realize, if that ball's going to get blown out by 2 feet, then I have to aim 3 feet further over than what I normally do, so it can be blown in, right? And if I'm lobbing, I have to lob much further to the other side, because when you lob, the ball gets carried even more. So you have to learn to shift with the conditions, and you have to find a way to win. There's another one where I was coaching at this one school, and we commonly had, and our courts sloped pretty significantly downward from one side to the other. Sometimes you'll see courts that sort of bow backwards. Sometimes you'll see this, the net is raised a little bit and the court goes like that. Sometimes it's sloped downward. Sometimes it's sloped to the side, because the water has to run off. Every court has a slope to it. If you didn't know that, then you're not really paying attention. So this is a big part of going from 4-0 to 4-5, is understanding the court conditions. How does this court slope? I've seen courts that slope diagonally. So you have a high corner and a low corner, and another corner that's not quite as low, and another corner that's not so high. So you do not want to approach toward the high corner. You do not want to do it, because that ball is going to sit up, right? But you do definitely want to go to the low corner, because you have somebody running downhill, and then they'll have to hit uphill for the shot. It makes a difference. It really does. So you have to know your court conditions. If the wind is blowing constantly this way, right, well, then you're going to have to use more topspin, right, because you're going to have to get that ball to go down the court. And if you're hitting into the wind, you need to hit a lot more flat, and you have to hit a lot harder to hit through it, so that ball's not making your ball go short. So I was at this one school, and our court sloped this way, and then the wind came diagonally across the court that way. So if you hit a high cross-court lob and it was in, it was going to bounce all the way up against the fence. It was going to go boing, and then we saw a lot of people going like that way up to the fence to the other side. So this was an important play for us. You get pulled out wide, you lift up the big lob, and now you have this seemingly impossible shot. I don't know how many times I saw opposing kids crash into the net. And then we also knew, don't lob to that corner, because if you lob to that corner, then you're going to get that thing back. And my kids knew where that fence was really well, because those were our home courts. So they had a really good propensity to be able to go back there and jump at the right time their jump to be able to make more of those. But they also then mentally and emotionally, they realized, okay, this is one of the screwed up things about our courts here. So I'm not going to worry about it if that happens to me. So that's part of it. You just have to understand that the conditions are equal for both players. And if they're weird, then they're weird for both. So we hit a lot of heavy topspin that way. And then when we were going to come to the net into the wind, we would come in on some slice, and then that ball would really die and stay very, very low. And that was really important. But then we also would not close the net a lot, because we're expecting a lob to come up. On the other hand, when the wind is behind you, then you can really crowd the net, because that ball, if it gets over you, it's being slowed down, and you should be able to run it down and get it no problem. I don't know how many times I saw my players have someone hitting a so-called offensive lob up and over the top of them, and then they just ran back and got it because that wind is slowing that ball down so much. It was gettable. In fact, we probably had more of a problem of people overrunning the ball than underrunning it. So anyway, the conditions can really make a big difference. And, not every court is perfectly flat. And lots of courts have cracks in them. So you have to study, where are the cracks? Where are the bumps in the court? Where are there uneven places where the court surface wasn't applied really well? So you might discover that there's a certain place where the court plays a little bit faster. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to target those places with your shots, but you have to realize, okay, if it hits that, it could be an unreliable bounce. On my teaching court that I currently teach on, formerly it had huge cracks. But now we got the petro matting, we got a great court job done. It was amazing, but there are some weird bounces on the court because what's underneath. And this is a hard thing for people to understand. And so in these particular spots, if you hit the ball here, it's going to bounce that way. And if you hit the ball there, it's going to bounce that way. And then if it goes here, it's kind of unpredictable. You don't really know what it's going to do. So these are important things to consider. And you have to be open-minded and really paying close attention to these things. So I'm gonna finish with this. One time I was playing doubles. We were in the big year-end championship thing. We were in the semifinals. Not a lot of people gave us a chance to get through to the final, and nobody really expected us in the semifinals. Anyway, so here we are. We're in the semifinals. And we're playing this team with a notoriously tough left-handed spin serve. So this guy's got, it's a crazy amount of spin. I'm going to guess it was at least 4,000 RPMs and maybe 5,000. And this guy just held serve because people couldn't really get a solid return on the guy. So that was a big part of the confidence of their game, is that this particular guy always held his serve. And so if the other guy held his serve a couple of times, then no big deal, right? So the only way you're going to beat this team is in a tiebreaker. So early on, we kind of figured this out. The one guy's got this sort of unbreakable serve, and the other guy is a good server, hard to break. So we're like, all right, we're going to hold serve, and we're going to figure out these guys' serves, but we're going to win the sit in a tiebreaker. So that was just our mentality right there. We're going to really take care of our serves. That's really a tough thing to do. So, but in doubles, it happens a lot. There are a lot of tiebreak, especially 4-5 and beyond. There are a lot of tiebreak sets because, there are a lot of really good people with good serves, and then that net man is also picking off the easy stuff that the server created. And so the net man is being an offensive weapon. So that happens 4-5 and above a lot. So it's a different game. 4-0, not quite as reliable. So if you're a 4-0 player wanting to play 4-5 and above, then you need to have a reliable kick serve. You need to be able to mix your spins up. You probably need a slice serve too. You need at least a decent flat serve because you need to be able to keep people honest. The variety is probably the most important thing, but even if you have this kick serve, you're fine. Okay, so anyway, so we ended up winning the tiebreaker, but now we're not out of the woods because, man, this guy's thing was so difficult. So anyway, here's what we did. We tried lots of different things. So he's left-handed and his ball curves this way. So both of us tried first to stand further over to the forehand side to take more forehands. But then what did he do? He started hitting a few more balls out wide. So then he threw in some flat serves and got some aces, some freebies, right? And I'm like, okay, can't do that. So then the next thing we tried was standing a little bit further back and trying to lob. But lobbing that ball, because it had so much spin, it was like almost impossible to get it to go, over the net person's head. So, now we're trying to lob and the ball's taking off that way, and we're like, oh no. We can't lob. All right, check. But we're working on it. We're working on it. So then I remembered something. I was like, the closer you take the ball to the bounce, the more you mitigate the spin that the other player has. So I was like, hey, watch this. So I come in, and now I'm like, easily at least within 7 feet of the service line, and I have my racket like so, because I'm thinking that the ball's going to come. If I angle my racket, the ball's going to come out straight. So, oh boy. I'll be right back. I should learn to turn these things off before I do a live video. What do you think? But, oh yeah, turn that off. All right. So anyway, if you're watching, please, leave a hilarious comment, because I'm doing a live video and I have my alarms on and all that. So thanks for that. Anyway, so it started to work. It was really amazing. So, both of us started doing this. We started to come up really close and just taking a quick little poke at it, because it had all that spin on it, which sent it, forward. So strangest thing I've ever done on tennis court. And then here's another funny thing. Then he's coming in, and because we're closer, he's having to make his first volley earlier than he's used to. No one has ever made him have an uncomfortable, or during the season, I shouldn't say never, but he's probably met somebody who can return that in the past. But anyway, so now we're taking time away from him because we're closer and we're returning them, and they have to volley more. And so we ended up breaking him, and it was like, oh, they were in shock. They were just absolutely in shock that we broke him. And then now the other guy felt a ton of pressure. And so then we broke him too, and then we won straight sets, and we won by 2 breaks in the second. But that was really a fun match, because it's those ones where you figure something out in the match that is difficult. It's a difficult problem to solve. And, this is where the phrase technical solutions to tactical problems comes in, right? So you have somebody who has a certain shot. Like if you're being overpowered, you probably need to shorten your backswings. If you're having a hard time, directing the ball, then you need to really pay attention to the angle of your racket. If this, if that, right? So if you need more topspin, then you need to, get underneath the ball a little bit more. If you need to hit flat, you need to keep your racket up with the ball more. So finding a way on the day, because, every day you play, your strokes are going to be a little bit different. So this whole idea of the fact that people think that somehow there's one true stroke. This is the Federer forehand, right? It doesn't matter, because Federer doesn't hit his forehands all the same. And Federer doesn't hit like Djokovic, who doesn't hit like Nadal. So they play like themselves, and they have to solve these problems with what they have. And You know, they have a pretty wide skill set available to them. And so, so I'm going to end with this. To the man who only has a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, right? So if my partner and I were just pure power players and all we ever do is hit the crap out of the ball, then we do not win that match. Because that ball, you could not hit the crap out of it. You had to get out your Swiss Army knife, and you had to go to tool number 4 in order to be able to get that thing back in play. All right, so be smart out there. I would love to coach you. So if you are interested in some online coaching, we can get on a call, and it's a lot of fun. So anyway, free 20-minute phone call to you. That's my offer today. And Tennis Strategy 201 will be coming out soon. And spend your social digital currency. So press like, subscribe, make a comment. I will respond to your comments. I love the comments that I get. And thank you. And we'll see you in the next one. If you have ideas of what you like, something you'd like me to cover, questions that you have, I'm happy to do a special video for you. Final word, I am in the editing stages of the Complete Guide to Coaching Team Tennis, a course that I created with David Smith, the coaching mastery guy. And so we made a course that is the Complete Guide to Coaching Team Tennis. So that could be for high school or college, or, you know, junior team tennis programs or NJTLs or what have you, you know, any kind of team tennis thing. There's some unique things that happen there. Anyway, thanks for watching.